Have you ever wondered how we can provide the best care for our elderly without draining our bank accounts? The answer might surprise you. In this video, I'll share 3 real-life stories of seniors who have found creative and affordable ways to age with dignity and happiness. You'll discover how family relationships, community support, and adapting to new lifestyles can make all the difference. Join us in celebrating the resilience and wisdom of our elders. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Golden Sage Wisdom to be a part of this movement. 1. The experience of Grandpa Sue, 75 years old. I've experienced both living in a nursing home and hiring a caregiver. Both are expensive and not always suitable, especially for those of us without high pensions. This year I turned 75, and my wife passed away over 5 years ago. Shortly after her death, I hired a caregiver. But after just 2 months, I decided to let her go. I was never great in the kitchen, so my children were worried that I wouldn't eat properly. They decided to cover the cost of a caregiver, and we agreed on 5,500 yuan per month, including food and lodging. The caregiver, a 40-year-old woman from a rural area, seemed honest enough. But the food she made was terrible. Plus, she spent most of her time on her phone or watching TV. Sometimes I'd call her several times and she wouldn't even hear me. It felt like I was the one taking care of her. Spending over 5,000 yuan a month for someone glued to their phone and whose cooking was inedible just wasn't worth it. So I decided to go without a caregiver. Instead, I spent that money buying my own food. When my children found me a spot in a nursing home, I didn't want to go, but they insisted because they were worried about me living alone. Nursing homes today are decent, but the staff isn't always suitable and they have strict rules. You have to register every time you go in or out, and I value my freedom. The atmosphere in those places is often depressing, with elderly people passing away frequently. I didn't even last a month before deciding to leave. From my point of view, as long as a person can take care of themselves, they shouldn't consider a nursing home, especially if they value their independence. Later, my children suggested I stay with each of them in turn. While they had the best intentions, I felt overwhelmed. At my son's house, both he and his wife worked during the day and were rarely at home. My daughter-in-law would make me lunch and leave it in the fridge before going to work. Although they were respectful and kind, I always felt like a burden to them. During the day, I spent most of my time alone. I didn't know the neighbors, so I never felt comfortable. They were already busy enough, and when they came home, they still had household chores to manage. Another issue was that as I aged, I noticed how younger people sometimes showed a certain disdain. For example, at my son's house, the utensils I used were specifically designated for me, different from the ones they used. My daughter-in-law didn't let me put my clothes in the washing machine, saying the smell of old age was unpleasant. I like washing by hand, but she didn't approve. Instead, I had to use the laundromat downstairs, which was inconvenient. These small things made me uncomfortable, and in the end, there's no place like home. As for my daughter's house, I never intended for her to take care of me in my old age. Every time I visit, she and her husband treat me kindly, but I know my son-in-law also has his own parents to look after. Over the years, my daughter's family has supported their children and built their lives, so I don't want to add to their responsibilities. When my wife passed away, I began to realize an essential truth. As we grow older, it's crucial to rely on ourselves. As long as I can take care of myself, I don't need to go anywhere. Now I've learned to cook, stir-fry, and even make steamed buns. I've also started practicing Tai Chi in the mornings. I meet with a group of elderly people in the square to exercise. Prioritizing my health and maintaining a positive attitude is what matters most to me. Last year, along with other elderly people who practice Tai Chi, We created a form of self-care by supporting one another. We live close by and look out for each other. In our group, there are over 10 people, 8 of whom, like me, are seniors without a partner or children nearby. We also joined a WeChat group for elderly people living alone, and since last year, the group has grown to nearly 20 members. The purpose of the group is simple: to stay connected and ensure everyone is okay. Each morning, we check in with the group. If someone doesn't respond, we go to check on them. We all live nearby, either in the same neighborhood or an adjacent one. Over time, the group has become a space where we share our needs and situations. If someone gets sick and needs soup or a ride to the hospital, they can ask for help. It's not free. We compensate each other at 8 wen per hour. For example, the last time someone helped me at the hospital, it totaled 3 days of 8-hour shifts, and I paid him 720 wen. This system works well for us. It's affordable, fair, and balanced. Sometimes I help others, and they compensate me. Other times, they help me, and I pay them. Everyone in the group is in a similar situation, so we understand each other's needs. This method has been a great success for us elderly individuals. It's much more affordable than hiring a caregiver or living in a nursing home, and the most important part is that we all know and trust one another. Thanks to this group, our children feel more relaxed. They know we are looking out for each other. Sometimes we even organize group outings, like walking in the park, which is both enjoyable and uplifting. What started as a small group has now grown into a community of dozens of people. Many elderly individuals have decided to join us because it not only lessens the burden on our children, but also provides much-needed emotional support. Every day, someone is there to talk to us, to check on us, and to ensure we're not alone if we fall ill. In the end, the cost is only a few hundred wen, a fraction of what it would cost for a caregiver or a nursing home. I believe this approach is suitable for most elderly people who are still capable of taking care of themselves. Together, we support one another, sharing responsibilities, and even earning a little extra income. If you find these stories inspiring and motivating to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your opinion is very important to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 2. The story of Grandpa, 65 years old. My children are very considerate, but I don't want to live with them. I've chosen a lifestyle that suits my needs. Many older adults, once they retire, opt to live with their children or move into a senior home, but neither option appeals to me. The way I live now allows me to enjoy great comfort. My wife passed away more than 2 years ago, and friends and acquaintances have suggested I find a new partner. But I don't see it that way. I'm someone who values peace and quiet. After my wife's passing, I've learned to be content with my own company. If I were truly asked to find someone new, I would feel uncomfortable. At this moment, I enjoy writing, reading, and tending to my plants. Occasionally, I meet with neighborhood friends to chat and have a cup of tea. I couldn't ask for a better situation. Currently, I live alone, though my children are just a 30-minute drive away. They visit me from time to time, and I receive a monthly pension of 6,000 wen. Since my children have formed their own families, I don't have any financial burdens or pressures. That's why I've managed to save a good amount of money. My children, however, are somewhat worried about me. They've suggested that I move in with them, but I've declined their offers. They're concerned about me living alone and not wanting me to feel isolated. They've even proposed sending me to a senior home, arguing that I'd have more company and someone to take care of me so I wouldn't have to cook or do laundry. But the moment I heard the words senior home, I immediately opposed the idea. I'm in good shape. Why should I go there? I can cook my meals and wash my clothes without difficulty. My children have suggested several times that I move in with them, but I've always said no. I understand their good intentions, but I don't want to be a burden on them. Moreover, staying at their house, even for a short period, not only inconveniences them, but also disrupts my own routine. Seeing my resistance to moving in with them, they suggested hiring a caregiver. The moment I heard that, I shook my head. I didn't want a caregiver. It didn't feel appropriate to have a young woman and me living under the same roof. Sensing my discomfort, my daughter smiled and said, "Don't worry, Dad. The caregiver we're considering isn't a traditional caregiver. It's a form of elderly assistance." The term elderly assistance piqued my interest. I became curious to know more, and my daughter continued explaining. She described a service where cameras are installed in the home, connected to the family's mobile phones. This way, if anything happens, my children could be informed immediately. She also mentioned that someone would come daily to bring me lunch and dinner. If I wanted breakfast, I could request it too. After delivering the meals, the staff would leave. They'd also come every 2 days to do my laundry in one go. If I needed anything else, I could notify them. Plus, if I wasn't satisfied with the assigned staff, the company would send someone else. Hearing this, I became even more intrigued. My daughter then asked, "What do you think, Dad? Does this type of elderly care sound good to you? You don't want to live with us or move into a senior home, so this seems like the best option." Hearing my daughter's explanation, I burst out laughing and said, all right. But then a thought crossed my mind. What about the cost? I hadn't addressed this yet. I asked her, "Isn't this type of care expensive?" She smiled and reassured me, "It's not expensive. It's 2,500 yuan a month, and you won't have to pay anything. My brother and I will take care of that. Don't worry about the money." Her words warmed my heart, but I couldn't feel comfortable letting my children take on the financial burden. They have elderly relatives and children in school to support, and it's a time when every penny matters. I replied, "My monthly pension is 6,000 yuan, so I can cover the 2,500 yuan without any problem." Eventually, we agreed that I would pay for the service myself. This new type of elderly care has truly been a blessing. It gives me more time for myself while bringing peace of mind to my children. I'm sincerely grateful for the efficiency and care provided. Thanks to this service, I can continue to live independently, enjoy my hobbies, and maintain my freedom. It's a great comfort knowing I'm supported without sacrificing my autonomy. The story of Aunt Liu, 67 years old. This year, I turned 67. After trying to live in my children's homes, I finally found the type of elderly care that suits me best. When I was younger, I worked as a supervisor at a state-owned garment factory. My monthly pension is over 4,200 yuan. I have a son and a daughter, both of whom have grown and built stable lives. My son owns a house and car, living comfortably with his wife and son. My daughter lives farther away, but her circumstances are good, and she recently had her second child. After my retirement, I long to enjoy my life at home with my husband. However, last year, my husband suffered a severe stroke and passed away suddenly. His passing was a huge blow, and for a long time, I struggled to recover. Life is fragile. We never know if tomorrow or an unexpected event will arrive first. After losing my husband, I felt extremely lonely at home. Everywhere I looked, I was reminded of him. Nights were the hardest, tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep. My children were thoughtful and caring. My daughter invited me to stay with her for a while, and my son also asked me to come to his home. Their offers brought some comfort. In our culture, it's a tradition for elders to be cared for at home, so I decided to spend some time at my son's house. However, I quickly realized that the situation wasn't what I had imagined. My son has 2 young children, a grandson and a granddaughter. I helped care for my grandson until he was over 2 years old. But when my mother fell ill, I had to return to take care of her. This left my daughter-in-law to quit her job and look after the children. When my granddaughter was born, my daughter-in-law initially wanted me to help with the baby, but my husband was unwell at the time, and I had to decline. Since then, my daughter-in-law has kept a somewhat distant attitude toward me. When I arrived at my son's house, I thought things would have improved, but I underestimated the situation. My daughter-in-law rarely cooked, and I found myself responsible for preparing meals and washing dishes. One evening, while my granddaughter was eating dinner, she asked, "Grandma, why do you cook like that?" My daughter-in-law, without saying a word, took the children and left, slamming the door behind her. Her attitude made me deeply uncomfortable. Each day in my son's house was filled with tension. I couldn't enjoy my retirement. Instead, I felt like I had become a caregiver again. Despite my efforts, my daughter-in-law never offered me a smile or showed gratitude. Her disdainful attitude made every interaction stressful. Even worse, she sought conflicts with my son, leading to frequent arguments that created a tense atmosphere at home. After less than 2 weeks, I decided I couldn't stay any longer. I packed my bags and asked my son to take me back home. That experience made me realize something important. Relying on my son for elderly care was complicated, and I couldn't count on my daughter-in-law for support. When I returned home, my daughter called me and invited me to stay with her for a while. After my experience at my son's house, I refused outright. The truth is, I had helped care for my son's children for a few years, but I had never taken care of my daughter's children. Her mother-in-law had always been the one to help. I worried that if I went to my daughter's house, it would only lead to more complications. Her apartment had just 2 bedrooms, and I realized there likely wouldn't even be enough space for me. After my son's house, I couldn't imagine repeating the same mistakes. This experience taught me an old but valuable saying: the parent's house will always be the children's home, but the children's house will never become the parent's home. I realized that I needed to adjust my expectations. The higher the expectations, the greater the disappointment. Some neighbors suggested that I shouldn't rely solely on my children for support and encouraged me to find a new partner. Thanks to a friend's recommendation, I met a man named Lolu, who was a couple of years older than me. He had a pension of more than 5,000 yen per month, slightly higher than mine. My friend mentioned that Lolu had a good personality, and since his spouse had passed away a few years ago, he was looking for companionship. Deep down, I wasn't opposed to starting a new relationship, but I didn't want to settle. I decided to spend time with him and see how things would go. Lolu lived in the neighborhood next to mine. Occasionally, we'd meet at the morning market, take a walk, and buy some food together. After more than 2 months, we both felt that things were going well. Lolu invited me to move in with him. He suggested that I rent out my own place to earn an extra 1,000 yen per month. Hearing this, I didn't reject the idea. However, I wanted to try living together first, before making any permanent decisions. Less than a month into living together, I started to feel tired of the arrangement. Before I could rent out my house, I decided to move back. Lolu had initially promised that we would share household responsibilities and expenses equally. However, once we started living together, things quickly changed. He left the house messy and rarely contributed to chores. He often spent his days playing cards and expected me to handle everything at home. When I cooked, he would complain that the food was too salty or didn't taste right. One day, we went shopping at a mall, and I spotted a second-hand gold ring priced at less than 500 yen. I asked Lolu if he could buy it as a token of our relationship, suggesting it would make a nice keepsake. To my surprise, he refused outright, saying we were too old for such things and that it would be better to spend the money on food instead. Frustrated by his attitude, I bought the ring myself. Lolu's unwillingness to invest in our relationship or fulfill his promises became clear when he failed to share his pension as agreed. He claimed he was saving the money for himself, even though I was covering most of the household expenses. What bothered me most was his freeloading attitude. While I handled the cooking, cleaning, and shopping, he spent his time relaxing and complaining. When I reminded him about our agreement to split the chores, he brushed it off, leaving me feeling undervalued and disrespected. I realized that this arrangement was not what I wanted for my life. I wasn't willing to sacrifice my peace and independence to accommodate someone who didn't reciprocate my efforts. That same day, I packed my belongings and moved back to my house. Fortunately, I hadn't rented it out yet, so I could return to my space without further complications. At first, living alone again wasn't so bad, but it didn't take long for the loneliness to set in, especially during the quiet nights when every corner of the house seemed to echo memories of my late husband. One day, while attending a neighbor's wedding, a friend mentioned that she had moved into a hotel apartment designed for seniors. She described it as convenient, comfortable, and reasonably priced. Intrigued by her experience, I decided to visit her place after the celebration. When I stepped into the hotel apartment, I was captivated by the warm and cozy atmosphere. Each unit was a well-furnished studio, offering privacy and independence. The highlight was the additional services. They provided breakfast and dinner daily, cleaned the rooms, and maintained the common areas. The cost was comparable to a senior home, but the food was delicious, and I could come and go freely without feeling restricted. That visit helped me realize I had finally found a lifestyle that suited my needs. After returning home, I made up my mind to put my house up for rent. With the rent of 1,000 yuan and my monthly pension of 4,200 yuan, I could afford the hotel apartment comfortably. I called my children to share the news about my decision to move into the hotel apartment. At first, they were concerned about the cost and thought it might be too expensive. But I reassured them by saying, "If you think it's too costly, you can help me a little. 1,000 yuan a month from each of you will be enough. I don't want to be a burden to you, and this lifestyle is what I need to enjoy my golden years." After working hard all my life, I decided it was time to prioritize myself. Money isn't something we take with us when we're born or when we pass away, so why not use it to live comfortably now? The senior hotel costs about 3,800 yuan a month. While it might seem like a high expense, the comfort, freedom, and peace of mind it offers make it worthwhile. This type of accommodation isn't suitable for everyone, though. It only accepts older adults who are still able to take care of themselves, and there is an age limit. You must be under 75. Some might wonder what happens when you reach that age. To be honest, I don't know, but I'll figure it out when the time comes. For now, I'm in good health and enjoying every day. 4. Living together. Keys to harmonious coexistence between elderly parents and their children. Living with children in old age is a common arrangement, whether by choice or out of necessity. While it can be comforting and supportive, it also comes with challenges. The generational gap, differences in lifestyles, and varying expectations can sometimes create tension for both elderly parents and their adult children. To ensure harmony in the home, it's essential for elderly parents to be mindful of certain aspects of cohabitation. By focusing on open communication, respecting boundaries, maintaining independence, and fostering emotional understanding, living with children can become a rewarding experience for everyone involved. First and foremost, open and honest communication is crucial. Before moving in together, both parties should discuss their expectations. This conversation should cover practical matters such as household chores, finances, and schedules, as well as emotional concerns like privacy and personal space. Addressing these issues up front can help prevent misunderstandings and resentment later on. It's also vital to maintain a balance where both sides feel heard and respected. Elderly parents should express their needs clearly while being open to their children's preferences and routines. This fosters mutual respect and understanding. One of the biggest challenges of living together is respecting personal boundaries. While sharing the same space, both elderly parents and their children need to recognize that each has their own lives, responsibilities, and social circles. Elderly parents should avoid giving unsolicited advice or commenting on their children's decisions regarding parenting, lifestyle, or finances. By respecting their children's independence, parents can reduce potential conflicts and build a more supportive relationship. At the same time, it's important for elderly parents to maintain a sense of independence. It can be easy to rely heavily on children for emotional or physical support, especially when health issues or loneliness arise. However, maintaining autonomy helps parents retain a positive self-image and reduces the feeling of being a burden. Engaging in hobbies, participating in community activities, or maintaining friendships outside the home can provide fulfillment and prevent isolation. This independence benefits both parents and children, allowing each to enjoy their time together more fully. Flexibility and adaptability are also key. Life changes for both generations, whether it's work stress, raising children, or health concerns, and these factors can affect household dynamics. Elderly parents should strive to be adaptable and understanding of their children's responsibilities. For example, if their children have busy schedules, parents shouldn't take it personally, but instead appreciate the demands they face. Emotional understanding plays a crucial role in maintaining a positive relationship when living with children. As parents age, they may experience feelings of vulnerability or a loss of control, which can be difficult to express. It's essential for elderly parents to acknowledge these emotions and communicate them constructively, rather than allowing frustration or helplessness to build up. On the other hand, children must recognize that aging brings unique emotional challenges and practice patience and empathy with their parents. Both sides should strive to create an atmosphere of compassion and care, where emotions are acknowledged and treated with understanding and love. Gratitude and appreciation are equally important in fostering harmony. Living together is a significant adjustment for both parents and children, so expressing gratitude can strengthen the relationship. Parents should thank their children for opening their homes and providing care, while children should acknowledge their parents' contributions to the household, whether it's offering wisdom, helping with the grandchildren, or simply being a loving presence. This mutual exchange of gratitude ensures that everyone feels valued and appreciated, making the cohabitation experience more positive and fulfilling for both generations. As we've explored in this video, the future of elderly care is brighter than ever. By adopting innovative approaches like community support groups, senior-friendly accommodations, and maintaining harmonious relationships with family, we can create a world where our elderly feel valued, respected, and supported. Small acts of kindness and understanding can make a big difference in their lives. Whether it's through meaningful conversations, thoughtful gestures, or fostering independence, we can all contribute to building a more compassionate and inclusive society for our elders. Let's celebrate the resilience and wisdom of our elderly by working together to ensure their golden years are filled with dignity, happiness, and fulfillment. If you've found value in these stories and insights, please like, share, and subscribe to Golden Sage Wisdom. Your support helps us continue to bring inspiring content that empowers and uplifts. Together, we can make a positive impact on the lives of our elders. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.